In this position, we can currently see that white is a pawn down, and a lot of the black pieces are currently trying to attack the white king on g1. But we can also see that the white rooks on d1 and e1 are aligned against the queen, especially the rook on d1. It's currently straight up aligned against the queen, so there could be some possible tactics there. We can see that there is a bishop on e5, which is only protected by the pawn on d6, and we can also see that there is a possible knight exchange via knight into c5 for white. So now if we start to calculate, we can see that white has no real checks in this position. Captures. The only real capture which I do see in this position is knight into c5. Knight into d6 will just lead into pawn into d6, and I don't think, or bishop into d6, and I don't think that there is no real good continuation for white in the position. So if we just start to look into knight into c5, black will likely play rook into c5, and then we can play the move b4 to deflect this rook from the c5 square, so that we are seeing the bishop on e5 and the lined up pawn on d6 to the queen on d8. The idea is after b4 to remove this rook from the c5 square and this whole fifth rank. So the idea is knight into c5. If pawn into c5, we can just capture directly rook into e5 and pick up a piece. And if rook into c5, b4 to remove this rook from the fifth rank, and then capture the bishop on e5. So it should just be knight into c5, rook into c5, b4, rook c7 we can capture on e5, and then capture on d8. And we have it's a 2 rook versus queen endgame, but white has an extra bishop. So it is just